Like, I saw something brown.
Has anyone managed to see any this morning?
Yeah,
No.
a couple.
Okay, good, so they exist. That's good. So we've got proof that they do live in here.
Well done.
I will keep my eyes peeled during the talk, but it might be best. Oh, is there one up above us? Yeah. Oh, lovely. Well, hopefully that will come down. I put some food in the middle, and they do know it goes there, so hopefully that's where we'll get them down into where I am now. But I'll keep my eyes peeled as well, so if I do see any coming from anywhere else, I'll give you all a shout too. You're not the friendly one. What are you doing so close?
Oh, he's so cute.
Oh, right, okay. So yeah, good morning everyone. Welcome to the British Wildlife Centre. I'm going to turn around so I'm facing you all instead. My name's Luke, and then with me, yeah, hopefully we'll get a few of our animals. Yeah, if we've got one up there, that's a good start, better than we often do get here. And then we've also got a load of our muntjac deer in here too, which this is one of them. Oh yeah, you're not too friendly yet, are you? Now muntjac deer, you'll see quite a few of them hiding in here, and they're not from Britain at all. They're one of our introduced species here, and like most of our introduced species, these guys were introduced by the Victorians. So a very long time ago, you had a lot of Victorians with a lot of land, and they wanted to show off how rich and wealthy they were. And the best way to do that apparently was to get in a whole load of exotic animals that none of your friends had and put them in your big gardens. Eventually, these kinds of animals learned to escape from these places, and so they spread all across Britain, and that's kind of what's happened with our muntjac deer. So they were brought originally to, I believe, the Woburn estates, a kind of Bedfordshire way, and yeah, eventually made their way out there, and now all across southern England. So no matter where you are down south, if you know where to look, you'll be able to find these muntjac deer. Now, often with introduced species, they do come with a lot of negative kind of connotations of that, and unfortunately, all kinds of deer are kind of lumped into that category, with no real predators here in Britain. Certainly not once they've reached kind of full size like this one. They eat a lot of the new growing plants that are coming up, and with no predators to kind of keep their numbers down, unfortunately they're destroying a lot of crops and a lot of habitats before they've even had a chance to kind of really form and take hold. So yeah, unfortunately, just dropping sticks on people, are we? Yeah, unfortunately, they've joined our other deer in being a bit too numerous here in Britain. But they are very lovely. We do have a very friendly one as well. This one's surprisingly friendly today, because you don't usually get this close to him. We do have Nettle. If you see one with a whole load of dots in her ears, that'll probably be her. She's a rescue. So she was found by the side of the road, most likely hit by a car stand, taken in by a very lovely family who had hand-reared a lot of rescued animals in the past. Once Nettle though got old enough, they realised that they couldn't keep her inside anymore, even though she had become essentially a lap cat, but a deer. Yeah, she couldn't be kept inside anymore, but she also couldn't be released. So her only way to survive was to be taken in, but unfortunately it meant that she couldn't be released in the future. And so she's ended up here. She's fitted really well with the rest of our muntjac herd, and they're apparently not very hungry today. So, bit awkward, but you'll probably see her today. When we're in here, we have to scratch her necks. When we're trying to do work in here as well, if you stop scratching your neck, she headbutts you until you start again. So you don't get a lot of work done in here, basically. So yeah, very, very pretty animals. Now, of course, we're here for our red squirrels. Hopefully that one's still up the top there. But they are our native squirrel here in Britain. Now, unfortunately, you don't tend to see them very often because, well, something has gone very wrong for our red squirrels, and that's the introduction of the greys. Now the grey squirrels, like our muntjac deer, not native to Britain. They've been introduced again by the Victorians, and I think potentially again to the Woburn estate, which is ideal for them, I guess, to have that kind of a record. But yeah, they're brought over because people got bored of looking at those things up in the trees. They wanted something else to look at out their window. And so, yeah, grey squirrels got brought over. Now, you like to think that the Victorians didn't know that it was going to cause a lot of havoc around the rest of Britain with our red squirrels, but unfortunately that's been the case. There's quite a few differences between them, and some of those differences have led to the downfall of the reds here in Britain. Now, one difference is their coloration, which is quite obvious by their names, but red squirrels tend to be red. It does seem like a bit of a funny colour if you're trying to hide in amongst all of the greenery up in the trees. It does seem strange to be bright red and have a bright white belly, but it's a really common type of camouflage in with the mammals in Britain and all over the world as well. So you do see it with things like the red foxes, our squirrels of course, and then also the roe deer in summer get a really lovely red coloration. It's because it breaks up your outline. Once you go behind a few leaves, a few blades of grass, even just into dappled light, that can be enough to work to make it really difficult to work out where you start and where all the grass and the branches and the shadows stop. So it's a really good way to kind of dazzle and confuse any predators. And also, if you're a fox, you might be trying to sneak up on dinner as well. So a really good way not to be seen. Now, hopefully with the one up there, you might be able to get a glimpse of their lovely ear tufts too. So they have lovely tufts in their ears, especially through kind of winter and spring. That's there to keep their heads warm. They live in Britain, it's cold here, so they need to wear a hat, they need to put a hood up. They obviously can't do that kind of thing, so they have these lovely tufty ears. As we go into summer, they do start to lose them, and so often you'll then start seeing them with just kind of normal squirrel ears, really. But yeah, during winter especially, and ours have still got them, they do have those lovely kind of signature tufts. They've also got incredibly bushy tails too, and so that keeps them, again, nice and warm. They use it in a few different ways. They can use it as a blanket when they're hiding in their drays trying to sleep. They can use it as a coat when they're outside and wrap it around themselves. And they can even use it as an umbrella, flicking it over their heads to keep the rain, or occasionally in Britain, the sun off their heads as well. So really, really useful. And it does make them look incredibly cute as well. Now, another difference between them and the greys are the size. Grey squirrels are much bigger than reds. And this means that when they live in the same areas, unfortunately there's a bit of competition for the places to live and a bit of competition for the food. Now, being much bigger, the grey squirrels are going to pretty much always win out when it comes to squabbles over places to live and things to eat. And so it pushes our red squirrels away from their favourite homes. Now, unfortunately, this is even worse because red squirrels are incredibly fussy. They only eat certain foods, they only live in pinewood forests really, and so once they get pushed out these areas, there's nowhere for them to go and they basically disappear. So in terms of their fussiness, grey squirrels will eat anything, anytime at all, doesn't matter, but for a red squirrel, it's certain seeds and nuts at certain times of year. You'll often find things like acorns. If they're unripened, a grey squirrel is more than happy to chew them down, but if they are unripened, they're actually poisonous to a red squirrel. So even when they are coexisting in the same place happily, unfortunately a lot of their food, hello, you coming down now? A lot of their food is going to be gone long before the red squirrels get a chance to eat it. You're going over there, are you? Well, at least you're doing something now. Now, the biggest difference between the reds and the greys, unfortunately, is how they handle, you don't have to look at me, look at the squirrel, it's how they handle something called squirrel pox. Now, when the grey squirrels came over from America in the late 1800s, they brought with them a disease. Now, being much bigger animals, the greys are much better prepared to fight off any illnesses, and being from the place that the illness is from, they have a natural immunity to squirrel pox too. Now, often when it is in a grey squirrel, it's completely symptomless and there's very little chance that they're going to fall ill, let alone it be fatal. But when they come into contact with red squirrels, like the one who's now disappeared over there, you can just about see him coming down a tree, when they come into contact with them, they pass on the disease. Being smaller, no natural immunities, it's often fatal. I think it's over 90% of the time it will be fatal for our red squirrels. And so that's been the biggest reason that they've declined. Instead of finding them all over Britain now, it's only in a few select places. You will find them on different islands, Brownsea Island, the Isle of Wight, Anglesey Island too, lots of islands off the coast of Scotland as well. And you'll find them in a few pockets in Scotland and places like the Lake District. There are a few populations there, but every year their range and their numbers are going down because unfortunately the grey squirrel populations are getting bigger and they're expanding more. So it's really, really difficult. Things are being done to help them out. A lot of the times in places where you have... Oh, you're over there now. Wrong way. There's no food in there yet. You haven't got this stuff. Come on. You make me bang. Come on. No, it's not in there. You've got to come over here.
There's a weight. Yeah, you can see it.
Come on. Sorry, I got distracted now.
Oh, yeah, that's so cute.
I'm going that way. Do you want me to go the other way? I'll go the other way, shall I? Oh, perfect. At least you've come down finally. Go on, your food's all up there. You can figure it out. Go on. There we go. Right, I've forgotten where I was, unfortunately. Oh yeah, so in places where you do have red squirrels, grey squirrels are attempted to kind of, to be kind of removed whenever they're kind of come across, but of course, if you're out in the forest, quite hard to track every grey squirrel. The biggest thing being done realistically are the breeding programs across Britain, which we're a part of here, and we have, over the years, been one of the biggest breeders of red squirrels in the UK. We've got 6 adults in here at the moment, and we've got at least 2 litters, and we've seen at least 4 kittens in here at the moment, still quite young. You'll tell the difference between them because the kittens are a bit smaller and not quite as steady on their feet as this one. And those kittens, once they're older, they'll go over to other centres and join their breeding programs, or even go back to the wild themselves. We've had tons and tons of squirrels go back out to the wild, usually onto islands off the coast of Scotland, and that's where they're doing really well. They're there to help boost or bolster the natural population, and they've also been introduced from here as well to other places around Scotland on islands where squirrels haven't historically been either. Now they've only gone to places where it's thought they can help out the natural ecosystems and habitats, and squirrels are fantastic for that. That's because they eat a lot of food, but they also bury even more. They run around, bury a ton, and then forget where it is, and that means that lots of new plants end up growing because squirrels have basically become a bit forgetful. They cache that food away for winter time because, well, not less food around, you need to make sure you've got loads stashed away, and so yeah, really good for lots of different reasons. Now, they can be a bit cheeky. Often you'll find 1 or 2 squirrels following another squirrel. Every time that squirrel buries its food, they dig it straight back up and eat it for themselves. And so squirrels have learnt to get around that by pretending to bury their food instead. They pretend 10, 11, 12 times, scamper up a tree and watch everyone else dig up absolutely nothing. And our deer, as you can tell, have kind of learnt this as well. They know that as the squirrels eat, they're incredibly messy, stuff's going to fall down for them. And also when they are running around pretending to bury their food, you'll often find a deer with its nose right up a squirrel's bum waiting. So yeah, they can be pretty clever when they want to be. Out in the wild, they'll be living up in trays, so big nests up towards the top of the tree, usually really close to the trunk, made out of a big ball of sticks that do look an awful lot like a bird's nest. There is one on the other side of the enclosure. If you do walk around that way, have a look up to the sky as you walk under some trees, you'll see one that's kind of fallen into disrepair up there, basically because we give them nice, easy nest boxes in here too, so they don't really have to worry about building their own home. They get one full of nice hay and straw that's changed for them fairly regularly, so why would you make your own home? In the wild, that's where you find them living, the same with the grey squirrels too. Now there's one other thing that is helping our native populations of red squirrels, and those tend to be our pine martens. Once our second most common carnivore, now our second rarest, but in places where you find red squirrels, grey squirrels and pine martens together, the red squirrel numbers go up, the grey squirrel numbers go down, and the pine marten numbers go up as well. And it's thought that they are likely predating mostly on the greys because they're easier to catch. They're a bit bigger, so they're probably a tastier meal as well, but also a little bit slower. They can't go out onto some of the branches that the red squirrels can go onto, so they're much easier prey for a pine marten. So helping the pine martens out might be one of the ways that we end up helping our red squirrels. But I will end the talk there for today. Any questions, feel free to grab me. Before I disappear as well, there's a few feeders like the one just in front of you all there, and a couple just dotted around. I'm going to put food in those too. Does sometimes bring the squirrels out and you can get a little bit closer, as long as you do stay nice and quiet as well, as you can imagine. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions, follow, or even just hang around and see what the squirrel gets up to. The next talk is our fox talk in 15 minutes time at 11 o'clock. It'll be the easiest way to get there, sorry, be out the door. You most likely came in behind me, and then basically down to the end, next to the toilet block, you've got Basil. If you want to take a more scenic route, the 2 exits over that side. If you keep following the centre around to the left, you'll end up back outside that door anyway. Hello, you going to take my hand? No, we're not that friendly yet, are we? Are we? So yeah, that'll be in about 15 minutes time. Other than that, thank you very much for listening. Enjoy your day at the centre as well. Thank you. Do you need more food?
Yeah, yeah.